Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn the Gemara Masechta Shabbos on Daf Chesam Amud Beis and Daf Tes Amud Aleph. Let's begin with a general outline of this class. So on Daf Vav Amud Aleph, we learned a brisa about the four rishuyos of Shabbos, and up till this point, we discussed the first three rishuyos, which are Rishus HaYachid, Rishus HaRabim, and a Karmelis. And in our Gemara, the Gemara will now discuss the next part of the brisa, which is the last part of the brisa, that speaks of a doorstep, of an eskufa, as well as the fourth rishus, a mokim p'tor. In this part of the brisa where we speak about an eskufa, a doorstep, one of the examples of a doorstep is a doorstep which is a mokim p'tor, so we get to the fourth rishus of Shabbos. And in our piece of Gemara, the Gemara will discuss 4 points in this last part of the brisa. So let's see the Gemara now in the flowchart form. The Gemara begins by quoting from the brisa, and it says, Amar Mar, the brisa said, a person may stand on the doorstep. He can take an object from the owner or give it to him. So a person can carry from Rosh Hashanah to the doorstep, from the doorstep to the Rosh Hashanah. And he can take an object from the poor man or give it to him. He can take an object from the Rosh Hashanah to the doorstep, or from the doorstep to the Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara asks in this, Hai iskufa mai. What rishus is this doorstep so that it's permitted for a person to do such a thing? If we look at the rishus that we learned up to this point, none of them will fit into this din. So the Gemara supports its question by bringing out the problem. Which rishus is this? If you'll say it's a rishus harabim, the problem with that is he can take from the owner, he can take an object from the owner who's in a rishus hayachid when he's in a rishus harabim, but then he's carrying out from a rishus hayachid to a rishus harabim. The next option to say is rather the doorstep is a rishus hayachid. That's also not possible. The reason is he can take from the poor man if he's in a rishus hayachid and the poor man's in a rishus harabim, but then he's carrying in from a rishus harabim to a rishus hayachid, which is asur. And the last rishus, which we also can't say it is, says the Gemara, rather the doorstep is a karmelis. Is that what we're going to say? The problem with that is, can he lechatchila take and give, but it's asur. Lechatchila, a person is not permitted to carry from a rishus harabim into a rishus harabim when he's in a karmelis, or from a rishus yachid to a rishus yachid when he's in a karmelis. So what rishus is this doorstep? And the Gemara answers that the doorstep is a mokim p'tor. We say rather it's a mokim p'tor, like if it's less than 4 by 4 tefachim wide. We're referring to a doorstep which is a mokim p'tor. In order to qualify as a mokim p'tor, it has to be less than 4 by 4 tefachim wide. An additional 2 things that are not written over here clearly is, number 1, like Teisva says later, this is specifically a doorstep that's entirely in the Rishus HaRabim, number 1. Number 2, it's between 3 and 10 tefachim high. So then if it's in the Rishus HaRabim and it's between 3 and 10 tefachim high, so then if it's less than 4 by 4 tefachim wide, it'll be a mokim p'tor, since it's not a significant area. And the Gemara brings a support to this teaching and says, and like Rav Dimi, Amar Rabbi Yechanan taught when he came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, an area that's less than 4 by 4 tefachim wide, people in Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah may adjust their stuff on it. That means whether the person's standing in Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah, he's permitted to place his stuff on this area, which is less than 4 by 4 tefachim wide, and then take it from this area. The condition is, as long as they don't exchange. What they're not allowed to do is place it onto this area and take it from, let's say, the Rishus HaYachid onto this area and then to the Rishus HaRabim, to carry from one Rishus to another through this place. So the Gemara over here discussed the first point that we want to bring about this brisa is what is the status of this iskufa, this doorstep where it's permitted to carry between it and a Rishus HaYachid or a Rishus HaRabim. Now the Gemara moves on to another part of the brisa and discusses that. The end of this actual case in the brisa that we just mentioned is, the brisa said, as long as he doesn't take it from the owner and give it to the poor man, or take it from the poor man and give it to the owner. And the reason, like we said earlier, is because it leads to people being careless in the malacha. If we permit the person on the doorstep to take the object from the Rishus HaYachid and bring it to the Rishus HaRabim, or take an object from the Rishus HaRabim and bring it to the Rishus HaYachid, it can bring to carelessness in the malachas. A person could come to directly carry from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. The brisa concludes and says, and if he took an object from one and gave it to the other, they are all putter. So the Gemara says it seems that this teaching in the brisa poses a challenge and a difficulty and a question to a teaching from Rava. And Rava is an Ameira, and the brisa is by a Tana. So says the Gemara, let us say Lema Tehei Tiyufta de Rava. Let us say this is a question on Rava. What's the teaching of Rava that this seems to challenge? Rava said one who carries an object for Amos and Rosh Hashanah, even if he carried it derech olav, he is chayiv. Derech olav means above himself. So he carried it above himself. He's in the Rosh Hashanah. Above himself is higher than 10 tefachim. Is going to be in a mokim p'tor. So Rava says if a person carries 4 Amos and Rosh Hashanah and it goes through a mokim p'tor, he's going to be chayiv. And the brisa says if a person carries from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah through the Mokim Torah, he's going to be Pater. So it seems that the teaching in the Brisa poses a difficulty on the teaching of Rava. And the Gemara answers, it's not a question. We can answer, Hasam loinach, over there by Rava, the object didn't come to rest. The person didn't place it in the Mokim Torah. He just carried it through the Mokim Torah. Hachanach, here it came to rest. In the Brisa, the person was standing on the doorstep. When he brought the item from the Rosh Hashanah through the doorstep, it's now considered at rest in the doorstep. And then he took it to the Rosh Hashanah, and that's why he's Pater. So therefore, it's not a question on Rava, because by the Brisa, the reason it's Pater, it's a case where it came to rest in the Mokim Torah. Whereas in the case of Rava, it did not come to rest in the Mokim Torah, and therefore the person is Chayiv. The Gemara now moves on to the next part of the Brisa that we're going to discuss, where it speaks about a different doorstep, which is not a Mokim Torah. So the Brisa said, Acherim say, which this refers to Rabbi Meir, is Skufa Mishameshes Beis Rishuyas. A doorstep serves as two Rishuyas. The way it works is as follows. When the door is open, it's like the inside. Pesach, Pasuach, Kilifnim, the door of this, of the Mavri. So just explain, we're referring here to a Mavri. A Mavri is a dead-end street, so it's closed on three sides. And the Mavri really is a Rosh Hashanah. However, because it's exposed to a Rosh Hashanah, it's not permitted to treat it like a Rosh Hashanah unless there is a sign is made to indicate that it's separate from the Rosh Hashanah, and that can be done through a lechi, a post that's set up, which separates the Mavri from the Rosh Hashanah and then permits carrying there. And we're talking about the doorstep of the Mavri. And the din is, Pesach Pasuach, if the door is open, Kilifnim, we treat the doorstep like the Mavri, like a Rosh Hashanah. Pesach, no, if the door is locked, then we treat it like the outside, like the Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara asks a question on this teaching in the Brisa, on what Rabbi Meir teaches here. And the question is, and he may carry in the doorway without a lechi? We're saying that if the door is open, the doorstep is like the Rosh Hashanah, like the Mavi, which means he's allowed to carry there. He's allowed to carry Dalet Amos. He's allowed to carry between there and the Mavi. So the question is, and he may carry in the doorway more than Dalet Amos without a lechi? But we know, we have a teaching where Rav Chaim Bar Gurya, it's in the name of Rav. Rav Chaim Bar Gurya, Amar Rav said, it needs another lechi to permit carrying there. It's the lechi that's placed at the entrance of the Mavli only serves to permit the Mavli to treat it like Rosh Hashanah. However, in order to treat the doorstep as a Rosh Hashanah, it's required, it's necessary to place another lechi there. So this is the question the Gemara asks, how can we say when the door is open, it's like the inside? We know that there's an additional requirement here, which is to have another lechi. And a typical Mavli doesn't have this second lechi. And the Gemara supports the question by negating a possible answer. But here we'll just show what the Mavli would look like. Instead of the lechi over here, we showed like the doorway of the Mavli is closed, which is the best type of possible lechi. It's a perfect lechi. It clearly indicates that it's removed from the Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara says, as negating an answer, and if you'll say the doorway wasn't 4x4 tefachim, so the entranceway over there is less than 4x4, and maybe then it doesn't require another lechi since it's an insignificant area. Says the Gemara, Rav Chaim Bar Gurya Amar Rav said that even when it's not 4x4, it needs another lechi. Even then, it needs another lechi. So the question we have on the Brisa is, how can we say when the door is open, we treat it like the inside, and a person could carry Dalet Amos? But we know that that's not the case unless there's another lechi. So the Gemara brings two answers to this. We begin with the first answer, Rav Yehuda from Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda Amar Rav taught that Rav Yehuda Amar Rav said it's the doorstep of a Mavri. Like we said till now, it's referring to the same Mavri. However, this Mavri did not become mutter to carry in it through a lechi, but rather there's a kaira over here. So it could be there's also a lechi in place, but the point is that there's also a kaira. And that's what we're going to change over here, that it wasn't a lechi that we're looking at, but rather a kaira. So let's see it inside. So we have a mavri, and we'll bring out right now that there's a kaira. Half has a roof, and half doesn't have a roof. And the Gemara says it's the inner part. So it's a doorway, and on top of the doorway, half of it has a kaira. So let's say the doorway is 4 tefachim wide. The kaira is typically 1 tefach, but let's say it's 2 tefachim, and it's placed on the inner part of the doorway, above the inner part of the doorstep. So the din over there will be different because, and this is one explanation in Rashi, the way a kaira works is that we say pi tikra yered v'seisim, that the edge of it goes down and closes off. And therefore, since it goes down and closes off, the area underneath the beam is also part of the Rosh Hashanah. So it comes out that when we say that if the door is open, it's like the inside, we're referring specifically to the area beneath the kaira, not the other part of the doorstep that's not covered with the kaira. So the Gemara explains and says, what we said is Pesach. So when the door is open, Pesach Basuach, one may carry under the roofed part. it's kilafnim, it's like the inside, but not when the door is locked. When the door is locked, then it's kilachutz. So we'll just show a visual of what that would be like. If the door is open, so then the kaira is exposed to the whole mavli, and then we say pi tikra yard v'seisim, and as a result, underneath the beam is also considered a Rosh Hashanah. However, Pesach no, when the door is locked, so the beam is no longer exposed to the mavli, so it's just a 2 tefach beam, and like Rashi explains, the whole din of pi tikra yard v'seisim, that it goes down and closes off, is only if it serves an area that would be now received the rishus of Rosh Hashanah. Over here, we don't have something that's going to become a Rosh Hashanah. Since the door is locked, the mavi is removed from the doorstep, and the beam itself is less than 4 tefachim. So we're no longer going to say that it goes down and closes off, and therefore, when the door is locked, under the roofed area is like the outside. So that's the answer of Yehuda Amar Rav. What he changes over here is that there is a beam involved. And then we have a second answer from Rav Ashi, and Rav Ashi said it's the doorstep of a house. And what we have over here by the houses, there's a few details that we're going to lay out to understand the case. So we put down the picture first, and then we'll describe it. So he says, and there were 2 beams on top that were each less than 4 tefachim wide. So we have 2 beams on top of the doorway, each is less than 4 tefachim wide. So let's say that they're each 2 tefachim wide, and between them was less than 3 tefachim. So they're not. We don't have the distance of 3 tefachim between these 2 beams, and the door was in between these 2 beams on top. So we have the 2 beams, less than 3 tefachim in between, and in between is where the door closes. So the way it works is as follows. So when the door is open, one may carry under the outer beam, but not when the door is locked. So the way it works is, since the door is in between, so when the door is open, so we'll just show a picture of when the door is open. When the door is open, the 2 beams are exposed to one another. Since there's less than 3 tefachim in between, we say lavud, which means they're attached. And since, although separately they're less than 4 tefachim, combined they are 4 tefachim. They're each, let's say, 2 tefachim wide. So now they combine to be 4 tefachim. So then we'll say pi tikra yard v'seisim. The edge of the roof goes down and closes off, and now the whole area is considered like the inside, like a Rosh Hashanah, because it has the wall that went down. However, Pesach No'ol, if the door is locked, Kalachutz, it's like the outside, referring to the outer beam, since the door is locked, and this beam is less than 4 tefachim. Additionally, it's no longer exposed to the other beam, because the door closes in between, so we can't combine them through Lavid, and as a result, we don't say Pi Tikra Yard V'Seisim, it goes down and closes off, and therefore it's not like the inside, rather it's like the outside. And with that, that's the third part of the Brisa that the Gemara addressed. And now we move on to the last and final point of the Gemara in bringing up in the Brisa, where it says, the Brisa said, and this is also a teaching from Acherim, which is Rabbi Meir, and if the doorstep was 10 tefachim high and 4 by 4 tefachim wide, it's a rishus on it. It's a rishus for itself. What that means is that if it's 10 tefachim high and 4 by 4 tefachim wide, then it's a rishus hayachid. But it's not just a rishus hayachid; it's a rishus for itself, meaning that a person is not allowed to carry from the doorstep to the rishus hayachid, that it's a doorstep too, and not from the rishus hayachid to the doorstep, although they are both a rishus hayachid. So the Gemara says about this that this is Messiah lay. This supports the Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. To Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, what's the teaching of Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi? When he says it supports him, it supports that he said that this teaching was also said by Rabbi Meir. So the Gemara brings that down. For Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi said, Rabbi Meir would say, anywhere that you find 2 rishuyos that are 1 rishus, and he'll bring an example, but in our case, it's 2 rishuyos. We have the rishus hayachid and we have the doorstep, but they're really 1 rishus, because they both are rishus hayachid. The example he gives is like a post in rishus hayachid that's 10 tefachim high and 4 by 4 tefachim wide, so it's in the rishus hayachid, and it itself is a rishus hayachid, because it's 10 tefachim high and 4 by 4 tefachim wide. So the din is one may not adjust stuff on it. The person is not allowed to carry an item onto that post or take an item from that post. He's not allowed to carry between the rishus hayachid and that rishus hayachid. And over here he provides the reason for it. This is a gzera because of a hill in Rosh Hashanah where it's usher. The reason it's usher to do this is because we don't want that somebody should do the same thing in the Rosh Hashanah where then it's usher, because the post is a Rosh Hashanah and the person's in a Rosh Hashanah. And in order to avoid that happening, the Chacham made it usher. They prohibited for a person to do the same thing, although he himself is in the Rosh Hashanah. So with that, we have the whole Gemara. And just to summarize this Gemara, we went through the 4 different parts of the Brisa. We began with the first thing, which was where we said that a person is allowed to carry from a Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah to a doorstep, and from the doorstep to the Rosh Hashanah and the Rosh Hashanah. And we asked, what's the rishus of this doorstep that such a thing is permitted? We explained that it's a makam p'tur. An example would be, like we said, first of all, it has to be in the Rosh Hashanah and between 3 and 10 tefachim high. And what the Gemara added is that it has to be less than 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide. Then we moved on to the next piece of Gemara, where it says on the Brisa that a person is not allowed to carry from one rishus to another through the doorstep. However, if he did, he's potter. We said this seems to contradict and question that Rava said that if a person carries through Makom Ptur, he will be chayiv. Here it says if he carried through the Makom Ptur, he's potter. We explained that in the case of Rava, it didn't come to rest in the Makom Ptur, therefore he's chayiv. However, in the Brisa, it did come to rest in the Makom Ptur. Then we moved to the longest part of the Gemara, where it brought down over there the teaching of a cherem, that the doorstep serves as two rishuyos. When the door is open, it's like the inside. When it's locked, it's like the outside. And we asked, when it's open, is it really like the inside? That we treat it like a rishus hayachid, and a person could carry in it dalat amos? But we know that it needs another lechi in order to accomplish that, even when it's less than 4 by 4 tefachim wide. And the Gemara answered that it's referring to a doorway of a mavoi that had a beam on top of it. And therefore, if the door is open, then we say pi tikar yared v'seisim, because it serves a larger area that will qualify as a rishus hayachid. But if the door is locked, we no longer say pi tikar yared v'seisim, and therefore it'll be like the outside. And then we gave another answer by Rav Ashi, who said it's the doorway of a house that has 2 roofs. Each of them is less than 4 tefachim wide. In between them is less than 3 tefachim, so that we could say lavud. However, that will only be done if the door is open. That will say lavud, and they will combine, and we'll say pi tikar yard v'seis, and the edge goes down, accomplishing that the whole area is a rishus hayachid. However, if the door is locked, since the door was in between these 2 beams, we no longer have a beam that's 4 tefachim wide on the outside, and therefore beneath that area will be like the outside, because we cannot say pi tikar yard v'seis. And the last and final thing we brought up is what Acherim say in the Brisa, that if the doorstep is a rishus hayachid, it's a rishus hayachid for itself, and a person is not allowed to carry between the doorstep and the house. And we said that this supports where Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi said that he had the same teaching said also in the name of Rabbi Meir. And over there we added on the reason for it, because we're concerned that if we permit that, eventually it'll come that a person will also come to carry from the rishus harabim to such an area, which is usher since it's a rishus hayachid.